Good evening, and welcome to Senator Patty Ritchie's telephone town hall meeting. Tonight, we're going to be talking about bath salts. We welcome you all for participating. And if you'd like to get involved in this conversation, we have a special guest here tonight with Senator Ritchie. You can be involved and ask your question directly by pressing *3 on your telephone, and that will direct you immediately to one of our screeners. So why don't we get right into it, because I suspect we're going to have a lot of questions tonight for Senator and for our guest. Senator Ritchie, can you explain to our listeners what it is we're doing tonight?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for taking time out tonight to listen to the call. The bath salts issue is something that has caused a severe problem for the three counties that I represent, St. Lawrence, Jefferson, and Oswego. And though the name bath salts sounds harmless enough, the synthetic drug compounds are anything but. I was visited by a young girl early on in session in Albany who explained to me that she actually bought some of the bath salts because they were legal, and she believed that it wasn't an issue because why else would she be able to purchase them? And after taking the bath salts, she was in the hospital for a week and was very ill. So this was one of the first times that somebody had brought it to my attention directly from the district. With that being said, there's been some recent headlines from across our region, and I'll read a few of those to those listening. The Syracuse man on bath salts holds a knife to the 5-year-old boy's throat. Utica man drank blood and wanted to eat babies, police say. Brewerton man banging on windows, mumbling before death in Oneida River. So this just shows how serious the problem is, along with the fact that there's been a number of people each and every day at the emergency room that the local hospitals are dealing with. And our guest, who will introduce shortly, was just saying that 5 people per day at the Samaritan Hospital they're dealing with the bath salts issue. So this is something that is causing a huge problem in the district and something that any parent should be aware of.
Senator Patty Ritchie is hosting a telephone town hall meeting tonight. Senator, some of those headlines are truly horrifying. Some of the stories that we've been seeing and we've been hearing about, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners will have questions tonight for our expert and for yourself. So, Senator Patty Ritchie, can you introduce our expert, Anita Seefried-Brown?
Certainly. First, I would like to thank Anita for coming tonight. We appreciate her taking the time out, but after getting to spend just a couple minutes with her, I can tell that she is somebody who certainly feels for the community and wants to make sure that she's doing what she can do to help make sure that they're safe. So she's a certified prevention specialist and a 17-year employee of the Alcohol and Substance Abuse Council of Jefferson County, and we certainly appreciate her bringing her expertise here tonight to the telephone call.
Anita, Senator Ritchie, the purpose of this call, once again, is to hear your questions. So please press *3 if you have a question for Senator Ritchie or for our expert, Anita Seefried-Brown. We're talking about bath salts. Anita, why don't you tell us about your experience? What are you seeing out there? What is the problem in your view?
The problem in Jefferson County, and from what I understand in neighboring county, is that these products are readily available still in spite of a ban sale by the Department of Health Commissioner Dr. Shah. These substances are still readily available in head shops. They're available in gas stations, in convenience stores, and God knows where else. The problem with the substances is that they are marketed as a safe alternative, for example, to marijuana. And I would like the listeners to know that it is not marijuana and it is not safe. The fake pot, or as they're also known as K2 or Spice, and legal funk and its various incarnations, they are nothing but herbals sprayed with poisonous chemicals, the composition of which is unknown to us, to the individuals in the field, to law enforcement, and they have unpredictable results to the user.
Anita Seefried-Brown is our expert from Jefferson County's Alcohol and Substance Abuse Council. We're joining with Senator Patty Ritchie, who's hosting this town hall, and you can get involved in this conversation by pressing *3 on your telephone. Senator Ritchie, we did ask the listeners, people who are interested in this topic, to submit some questions to us online while we wait for some of the callers to come on in. Why don't you introduce one of the questions and one of our questioners right now?
One of the questions that had been sent in earlier was from Mike M. from Ogdensburg. What do bath salts look like, and how do I recognize if somebody is using them?
Bath salts are sold in little glittery wrapped wrappers with generally very appealing images. They are clearly geared toward young people. The content is generally a powdery substance. The latest incarnation now is called glass cleaner. It invites the user to mix the entire packet with the specified amount of water and then use it accordingly. What does mean using accordingly? To the sellers of these substances, it barely means use it to clean the pipes or bongs. Those are legal items one can purchase. However, all the marketing around these substances make it very, very clear that the purpose is to ingest these substances, and they can be ingested in a number of ways. They can be inhaled, they can be smoked, and they can be ingested, or they can be vaporized with a water bowl.
That's Anita Seefried-Brown is our expert from the Jefferson County Alcohol and Substance Abuse Council. Senator Patty Ritchie's town hall on bath salts. Please press *3 if you'd like to get into the conversation. Senator, we have a question from Facebook. Kathy from Ogdensburg.
It says, I've never heard of this bath salt among other drugs, and we have no knowledge and education to what side effects they may cause. What can we as a community do about the problem?
Bath salts come in a number of different names. They are marketed as Purple Wave or Red Dove, Ocean Snow, Blue Wave, Vanilla, and as I already said, as Glass Cleaner. These substances are synthetic stimulants that act on the brain, and they mimic the worst of the symptoms of cocaine, of LSD, and of PCP. The reactions users experience are totally unpredictable, and they can include very rapid heartbeat, cardiac distress, very much increased body temperatures, as well as delusions and paranoia, which oftentimes cause the user to go to an emergency room.
We have a number of callers already on the line, and you can join the conversation by pressing *3. Senator Patty Ritchie, we have a call. Laura from Oswego is on the line right now. And Laura, what is your question for the Senator and for Anita?
Patty?
Hi, Laura.
Hi. In the first place, my husband is deceased. You write to him all the time, but I'm reading it. My son was head of the drug task force in Fulton Police Department. He retired, and now he is working for the drug task force in Oswego. And I am just so relieved and so glad that all this problem is becoming more aware, because the stories he tells are absolutely horrible. And we did lose a very, very intelligent, computer-wise young man to bath salts. Fortunately, he didn't commit suicide, but he did die. And thank you so much for taking this time. I appreciate it. I'm so glad people are becoming aware. Have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for calling in, Laura. I had early on some visits from law enforcement from Oswego County when they first started seeing the signs of it. And you're absolutely right. It's taken a while for this to come to the forefront, but that's why I so much appreciate Anita being here tonight, because I've received so many calls in the last few weeks from people who are just reading some of the articles and really don't know where to turn. So she's giving them the opportunity to hear from an expert what it's about and what they can do to help.
Anita, is that common? Laura mentioned that people may commit suicide as a result of these bath salts, or that people actually have, it actually has resulted in fatalities?
It actually has caused fatalities. For example, you may recall the incident of the woman in Munnsville, close to Syracuse. She was clearly under the influence of bath salts, stripped nude because of the increased body temperature. She was beginning to assault her 3-year-old child. Law enforcement was called and had a difficult time subduing her, and law enforcement had to taser her for her safety as well as the safety of everybody around it. Unfortunately, because her cardiac system was in such a hyper-aroused state already, she did pass away. So some individuals pass away as a direct result of the drug use. Other individuals, we have heard reports of having committed suicide. It is very unfortunate, and I am so glad that the senator is taking her time to really put on this telephone town hall meeting to get the word out in a really big way. So thank you so much for your call.
Senator, we're calling about 30,000 residents of Jefferson, Oswego, and St. Lawrence County tonight. We're going to try to get to as many calls as we can. You can get in on the conversation by pressing *3 right now. We'll try to get to your call right away. I believe we do have a special guest on the phone, though, Senator. The district attorney from Jefferson County is joining us. And I believe if DA Intschert, if you're on the line, you should be hearing me right now.
I can hear you, and I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy, for calling in tonight. This is something that I've had the opportunity to speak to you about, and we certainly appreciate your expertise and you staying on the line tonight to share your experiences and your advice.
Thank you.
Well, DA Intschert, can you tell us what are you seeing in your office? Are you seeing an increase in these cases? Is it becoming a problem in Jefferson County and throughout the region?
I can say it's certainly becoming a problem. We are seeing some of them. Some of them are not necessarily coming to us. And I've not been able to hear your entire conversation with Anita, but she and ASAC and other professionals in the community have banded together to provide all of us with information, and I'm very honored to be part of their team. And it's very clear that these are just very, very dangerous substances, and as Anita was saying just in the last few minutes, people's reactions are often very irrational and often very violent. And as well as the various, physical medical problems that they create with the user. So we're seeing situations where individuals are, being brought to the hospital emergency rooms in all kinds of distress, many times in violent ways, and are striking out. And of course, this not only creates a problem for medical professionals in attempting to treat them, but it diverts their attention from other people that need their assistance. We have seen, and I'll try to be very careful and not attempting to be very specific with some open cases. But I can tell you that one of the first situations that was brought to my attention was when I had actually gotten a call from the media about a potential shooting, only to learn that there had been no shooting. But it was an individual who thought that he was being attacked. And it's that sort of a situation where, certainly we can wind up with a tremendous amount of violence. And it's very, very unfortunate. I can also give you just quickly, again, to make sure that I'm not touching on open cases here, just a couple of headlines that I picked up just last week. There was one that indicated that there was a Syracuse man on bath salts who was holding a knife to a 5-year-old boy's throat during a random attack. Utica man threatens to cut out his heart while on bath salts. I mean, this is, at least allegedly, the type of reaction that some folks are having to these drugs.
And this must create a special challenge to law enforcement, the situation you described where they're getting a call about, gunfire or a person who's, committing some kind of act of violence on themselves. How do they respond to that? How can they appropriately react?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for individual law enforcement officers, but certainly, I mean, their concern is the safety of community, the safety of the community, the safety of themselves, their fellow officers, and in addition to that, the individual that's under the influence. So it's just a very, very volatile situation every time they get one of these calls.
District Attorney Cindy Intschert's joining us now on Senator Patty Ritchie's town hall meeting. District Attorney, if you don't mind, I'll bring in a caller from Oswego. I'm sorry, I just lost my place. I'm going to bring in Jennifer from Fulton, who is a teacher and is wondering how people can even purchase these items if they're so dangerous. Jennifer, are you with us?
Yep, I'm with you. Yes, I am.
Good question.
Yeah, my question was that, like he said, being a teacher and a member of the community, I guess I'm confused how these drugs are even available, especially to kids. They believe that if something is legal and they can purchase it, it's very attractive to them. And I just don't understand how something like this was available on the market and is totally legalized.
Well, I think the understanding that it's totally legalized is a little bit of a misunderstanding, with all of us. They're not totally legalized, and I'm not sure if there's been any discussion of it. The New York State Attorney General's office, I think, has done what I think is kind of inventive. There are laws in New York State that require that drugs be properly labeled. And part of the reason that many of these items, at least in my opinion, were on the shelves was because they were not properly labeled to indicate what the ingredients are. So they've been able to go civilly, not to prosecute criminally, although we are investigating whether there's anything that can be done in the labeling aspect, but that they went civilly and were able to obtain court orders to go in, investigate, and clear some of the shelves. So even though we're not able to prosecute in many instances the sale or possession of these drugs on a criminal matter, there are currently some laws, state laws on the books to get them removed civilly. I can tell you that there are the current laws address some of the chemical compounds that are out there. Unfortunately, what we're finding is that the chemists, if you will, and I'm not talking about those you're going to find in your illegal lab, but the cooks that are out there and the people that are generating these products, when the law prescribes or makes illegal a particular chemical compound, what they're doing, for lack of better terminology, is tweaking that compound. So it's been changed just enough that it's no longer on the illegal list, if you will. So we're trying to wrap our collective minds around a way to, hopefully, with the senator's assistance and others, come up with some laws that will instead be ahead of the cooks, if you will.
Well, Cindy, I want to thank you so much for joining the call tonight. We certainly appreciate your expertise, and just to add a little information on where we're at legislatively, I co-sponsored a bill with Senator Flanagan that would make synthetic marijuana illegal, and it included a number of additional chemical compounds. That actually passed the Senate and died in the Assembly Codes Committee this past session. I also sponsor a bill with Assemblyman Barkley that focuses on the receptors and the effects of the drug rather than the chemical compound, to see if there's a way to get around what the chemists are doing by changing the compound just a little bit so that it's still legal. So hopefully when we go back in session, we'll be able to get something passed in the Assembly, and We certainly appreciate working closely with Sullivan Barkley on the bill that we currently sponsor together.
Well, thank you. We are collectively, looking for some guidance from the state. So we're sincerely hoping that current efforts will be successful.
Well, and for those listening, the Jefferson County District Attorney has been a real voice when it comes to this issue and a wealth of knowledge, and we certainly appreciate her being on the call tonight.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you, District Attorney Intschert. You're joining Senator Patty Ritchie's town hall meeting on bath salts. We have with us an expert from the Jefferson County Alcohol and Substance Abuse Council, Anita Seefried-Brown. And Anita, you were pointing to a list of some of these brands that District Attorney Intschert mentioned that they have very misleading names. Maybe you'd like to reel off some of those for us.
Oh, most certainly. As the district attorney had indicated, the Attorney General's office has really come up with this fabulous way of getting underneath the problem via the mislabeling. So there are items available, readily available, stuff like Legal RX, and the reason I mention it is because, it is quite widely available while other things are not, and I really cannot mention those. And Legal RX comes in this tiny little plastic container. Says Legal RX has 2 pills in it, supposedly maybe hydrocodone, a synthetic hydrocodone, according to some sources, but it doesn't list what the substance in the capsules is made up of. So the Attorney General's office really has done a most wonderful job in moving this forward, and we appreciate all his efforts. And one store in Watertown is in fact very much under their microscope, and this is all public knowledge, so I'm not speaking out of school.
Senator Ritchie, we have a lot of callers on the line, but we had another question online submitted. Would you like to ask that of Anita?
This is from Kathy L. in Phoenix, and she would like to know what are the signs to look for to tell that someone is on bath salts.
To look for someone who is on bath salts, and is this the lady from Phoenix school system?
Yes.
Well, bath salts immediately causes hyperactivity. It causes increased pulse rate, heart rate. The person is probably beginning to sweat severely because of those symptoms. It is a generally accepted practice if you feel that the person is under the influence of such a substance to refer the individual either to the school nurse. Make sure you follow your school's own policy, and if the individual begins to get violent or is acting out in any way, then please do not approach the person and don't be confrontational. And if need be, perhaps you need to call 911.
We have about 1,100 people on the line right now. I'm going to bring in a caller from Watertown. Rose from Watertown has a question for Anita and Senator Ritchie. Rose, are you with us?
Yes.
What's your question, please?
I'd like to know why, if we have tainted food on the shelves, it's pulled off immediately. This is something that hurts our children. Why dance around it? Why even try to make any laws? Pull it off the shelves. That's all. And that should clear the problem. Make it so that they cannot buy it, they cannot find it. I mean, it's just like you wouldn't give a child a knife or a gun to play with, but yet you're letting them buy this bath salts.
Bring up a good point, and I think that's why the Attorney General is doing what he's doing right now to try to get some of this off the shelf. But in the end, I think we're going to need to pass some sort of legislation that makes this illegal so that law enforcement has the ability to clamp down on what's going on.
Let's go to Kay in Watertown. Kay, you have a question for Senator and for Anita. Kay?
Hi, Senator Ritchie and Anita. I work at the Watertown School District, and I have many concerns. I was just speaking with somebody that works at the hospital the other day, and their concern is that when they're getting these people in that are on this drug, that somebody else may die because they're taking up so much of their time. I mean, it's just so awful. And I agree with what was that, Rose? I agree with what she did. Just take it off. Just get rid of it. And I just can't believe I live 2 blocks from that Krebs or Zebs or whatever the heck the place is. I don't even know how they got in. And I went down to Codes, and they said they didn't even know that they were there. And I've got Sean McQueen was going to go down and check on the place. But, I mean, I'm there all the time at that plaza, and they're all young people going in and out of that place, a constant thing. And they're open Sundays. They're open 7 days a week until all hours. And the other part is that it's not cheap. And so it's going to cause more crimes because the kids are going to have to get the money to buy it. And how do they get that? You know, it's just, it just drives me nuts. It just, that when we have such stringent laws, like she said, on tainted food that could possibly harm somebody, and prescription drugs, I mean, you can't, you know, you've got to, they're so careful with those, and it just doesn't make sense at all. It should be gone.
Okay, well, food items are regulated by the FDA, and these substances do not fall under the jurisdiction of the FDA. It is a legal issue, and because, as District Attorney Ms. Cindy Intschert already indicated, the manufacturers of these substances, they nimbly dance around the existing laws and continue to change the chemical compounds. So as soon as one chemical compound is made illegal, they already have another one ready to roll out. And so it creates really a challenge for law enforcement and for our decision makers and for our lawmakers.
We have had a couple of questions now about law enforcement, and we are joined, I believe, by a member of law enforcement from the Oswego County Sheriff's Department, Undersheriff Gene Sullivan. I believe you're still on the line. Gene, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Sheriff, why don't you tell us what your experience is and what you're seeing, and what do you think we need to do?
Well, certainly our agency has seen a dramatic increase in people using bath salts, people under the influence of bath salts. But I think even the number that we're seeing are coming into contact with pales in comparison to the total number of people that are actually affected by this. Most of what you read, most of the incidents that make the news or are newsworthy may be 10 or 20% of what is actually occurring out there. And of course, I have the same questions as I've heard everyone else pose about what we should do about it. Clearly, if there were legislation enacted that made it unlawful, it would give law enforcement the tools necessary to go in, to make the arrests, to remove it from the shelves, as was suggested. There isn't anything more that we would love to be able to do.
Thank you, Gene, for calling in tonight. Can you tell me when you first started seeing bath salts being prevalent in the area?
Yes, ma'am. I think we saw it in earnest probably at about the beginning of the year, where we really started to see a larger influx of it. We saw maybe smaller pockets of it, and then as it grew in popularity and usage, we began to see more and more of it. I know the other disciplines in public safety that have seen a dramatic increase are our emergency service workers, our ambulance workers. They're getting the calls when the people are having a bad reaction to the drug, but aren't necessarily committing a crime. They still have an obligation to treat those people or to get those treatment. And my understanding is that many of the emergency departments in the area are just inundated with folks who are under the influence of bath salts as a medical concern.
Well, that's one of, I think, all of our concerns is that those who are called out when there is a report because of the effects of the bath salts, that it makes it more dangerous for law enforcement and for emergency workers to go to the call. And so that, I think, is something that is a real concern for all of us.
Sheriff, I've brought Lori from Edwards in on the conversation. Lori, you have a question which seems to go right to the heart of the law enforcement issue. Do you want to ask your question?
Sure. It kind of reflects what Rose said. It's obvious that this substance is a danger to the public on all levels. When a food or legal drug on the market, or even dog food, for crying out loud, proves to have adverse effects or poisonous effects, an alert or panic is set in place, recalls go out. These things are eliminated from public access so quickly. So why is it taking so long and seeming so difficult to get a handle on this substance? I mean, the civil action, that's a good start, but my God, it just seems like a slow start.
Lori, I agree with you, and I do think, I think initially at least, as we attempt to tackle this, it is going to take some creative thinking and some a difference in thinking as far as how to attack it. I know I heard Anita say earlier that the way or the reason that they've been able to stay one step ahead of us is that they very simply change the compound or the chemical makeup of the drug. So suddenly what has been outlawed in legislation is changed and therefore is no longer illegal.
I also would like to add that Rome, City of Rome, for example, has taken a proactive stance and in a relatively short period of time passed a local ordinance making it illegal to purchase and distribute and to sell these synthetic substances. And Chief Kevin Beach and Detective Commander Tim Bates, they both indicated that the biggest advantage of having the ordinance is simply having the ordinance, because initially one head shop voluntarily closed shop and moved away. Unfortunately, that same person probably opened a shop someplace else, but for that particular moment in time, Rome had one less head shop.
Undersheriff, I just want to thank you for calling in tonight. We certainly appreciate your time.
Well, of course, Senator, and thank you for your efforts that I know you're spearheading in Albany in an attempt to enact legislation that's going to give us the teeth we need to be able to take action on this.
And make sure to relay back to the sheriff how much we appreciate the number of times that we've called him for his expertise on the issue, too.
Certainly, Sheriff Todd's very concerned about the situation, and in fact is at the Sheriff's Conference right now speaking with his colleagues, and I know that this was one of the hot-button topics on his agenda to try to tackle at the State Sheriff's Association.
I would ask then, if he's there, could you send the message to the sheriff to try and move along the Assembly majority on a couple of those bills that we've been able to move through the Senate and have been hung up by the majority in the Assembly?
I'm sure he'd be happy to help in any way he could.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Undersheriff Gene Sullivan, thank you for joining our town hall with Senator Patty Ritchie. Senator, clearly a lot of interest in this topic. We have a number of people who are still waiting to get through with questions. You still have time to press *3 if you'd like to join the conversation. Let's go to Donna in Lisbon, right around the corner from us. And Donna, what's your question for the Senator and Anita?
The question is, it seems that we want to have action immediately, and by the time it gets through the courts and the legal process, we have had more deaths and more people in the emergency room with this experience of bath salts. If there was a way that we could speed up the process, it would be gratefully appreciated for all of our communities, I'm sure, but there's just so fast that we can move. If we could do it in an expedient manner, that would be excellent.
Well, I appreciate you calling in, and I guess my first response to that would be to thank Anita again for being here tonight, because one of the other questions that we received was from a parent saying that they had no idea what bath salts were and that they wished that they had more material handed out to them so they could talk to their children. So that's what we're doing tonight. Certainly appreciate Anita taking the time to answer these questions, and you're absolutely right about the process moving slowly. And last year when the bath salts bill was passed, that passed both houses, we immediately began to hear from law enforcement the issue of the chemists being able to change the compounds, and that's why we had several bills out there that I sponsored or co-sponsored that we're moving in the Senate. And if you're listening and you wanna make sure that this moves forward, you need to either write or to call the Assembly majority and tell them that you're supportive of legislation being passed in that House.
I am so glad that you made this phone call, because, you know, it takes for people to take note that there is a problem in their community and then to do something about it. You know, get mad, get off the couch, grab a pen and a piece of paper, write to your decision maker, or go to the computer, send an email to your city council or to the legislator or to the senator. Once there is critical mass, they will act. And not unfortunately, fortunately, the legal process does take its time. However, when we have such emergencies at our hands, we of course wish that that process would work a little faster.
Senator, certainly education is important. There's a lot of confusion. A lot of people have questions about this. We had 4,926 people in total on this phone call this evening. Still over 1,000 people who are joining us who want to know more information. I should mention that last question online came from Rhonda from Central Square. And I'd like to go. We have a couple of people who are calling with a similar question. So Nelson in Fulton, if you're still with us, Nelson, why don't you, let's see if our expert can answer your question this evening.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm just curious, Senator, I know that the chemists that we've referred to here tonight as they exist, but they have to exist in some sort of corporate environment. I'm curious as to why we're not going after these corporations. Are they domestic corporations or are they foreign? For example, from China, where we seem to be buying a lot of our products today. Is there any plan to go after the manufacturers themselves?
Nelson, thank you. Anita, do you want to handle that?
I am not sure how one would go after the manufacturers, because the stuff is manufactured in China, in India. It comes through Europe and into the United States, where it then becomes distributed into the various locales. Maybe the senator can be more specific, but I simply don't know how one would go after an entity that on paper probably doesn't exist.
Nelson, you bring up a very good point, and I think that's what the Attorney General is trying to do right now. He has out there and trying to shut down a number of stores who are selling the bath salts under a different label, and I think that's his way of trying to target it. But because it's coming from another country, I think it's very difficult for that to happen. And until we get a law on the books that makes some of that illegal, I think law enforcement, once again, is going to have a difficulty if they come across someone who is using it, doing anything about it.
Peggy from Oswego, welcome to the conversation. I understand that you have a personal experience and you have a question for our expert and Senator Ritchie.
Yes. Hi. I was just wondering, because I know that some of the effects are like LSD and stuff, and unfortunately I have a son that's on this stuff. He doesn't live with me, though. Even if you stop taking it, do the side effects still come? They can still come back, can't they? And what is there, like, any kind of help for people that are addicted to that stuff?
There certainly is help for individuals who are addicted to these substances. I would suggest calling your local treatment facility. As far as intermediary and long-term effects of these substances, we simply don't know. It is too new of a phenomenon, and the composition of the chemicals changes constantly and rapidly. That there's no prediction about a long-term outcome can be made. If I may add, we had a situation in Jefferson County where a young woman had used synthetic marijuana, ended up in inpatient mental health units for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, finally got her life back together, and approximately 2 months later was at a concert where she smelled the aroma of the synthetic marijuana and immediately went into a psychotic state again. So we simply don't know what will happen, and hope that appropriate treatment will begin to take care of the issues.
Sharon from Pennellville, you have a question for our expert, and this is a question I think that a lot of people have on their mind right now. Sharon, why don't you go right ahead with your question?
The other day I was cleaning my bathroom closet, and I found a small bottle of bath salts. It's for taking a bath. What is the difference between that and what you're talking about? And if it's the same thing, how do you dispose of it?
Well, I am so glad that you asked this question, because there is so much confusion in the general public about the nature of bath salts. It is not the Calgon, take me away kind of a bath salt. That's a wonderful experience, and I look forward to having a nice bubble bath myself. What we're talking about are synthetic drugs that are unpredictable in their effect on the user. They are man-made synthetic substances, and they are sometimes labeled as plant food and marketed as not for human consumption. But in fact, it has nothing to do with your regular bath salt. A regular bath salt is a delightful thing to indulge in. Synthetic drugs, however, are entirely different animal, and they are very dangerous, and that's why we're here to begin educating the public about them.
Anita, I know that Jefferson County is offering some synthetic drug education programs. Could you tell the listeners some information about what they're offering?
On August 8th, from 2 to 4 p.m., and again from 7 to 9 p.m., we offer synthetic drug education programs at Jefferson Community College in Watertown, New York. And again, on August the 15th, from 1 to 3 p.m., again at the Jefferson Community College in Watertown. If you need further information, please come visit our website at www.jcasac.com. Also visit our blog.
Shirley from Central Square, you have a question for Anita and Senator Ritchie?
Yes. In a small community, we're very aware of what houses sell drugs to the kids. I'm in my 60s, my daughter's in her 40s, and her kids are in their 20s, and as we pass these houses, we hear things like, yeah, that's where all the kids go to buy all their drugs. Well, if they know it, and my daughter knows it, and I know it, then where are the local police? Why aren't they taking care of it? I know the theory is, go after the big guy, but the big guy is selling to the little guy, who in turn is selling to the whole little community. And I don't care how many laws you pass, if they're not going to take and go after these places that are selling to the kids. You got 30 kids in a community that goes to one house, but he's not considered the big guy. Well, we still need to take care of taking that out. So what are they going to do to follow up on and making sure that that these little places are taken out so that the big guy doesn't have anyone to sell to?
Well, and that is a fabulous question, Charlie, and it always begins small. every community has a police department, and I'm not sure if every police department has a drug task force. But if you are aware of a particular house that is from which drugs are sold, then by all means, make an anonymous phone call to your drug task force. That certainly will be the first step. Another step is to contact your decision maker. Call the city council people. Call the senator responsible for your area. Senator Ritchie has been absolutely fabulous in addressing this issue. It takes the initiative of the individuals who are seeing that something is wrong, and without putting yourself at any risk or in any danger, those calls can be made anonymously.
We have a question from Christine in Lorraine. Christine, are you with us?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead and ask your question. I think I pushed the wrong button. I'm sorry. Do you have a question for Anita or the senator?
Yes. I was wondering what made it all possible to keep it on the street.
Why is it possible that this product is still on the street?
Right.
I think that's what it was discussed earlier. Last year there was legislation passed that banned bath salts, but immediately after that happened, we started hearing from law enforcement agencies that the compounds that were used were just changed just slightly so that they did not fall under the law. And that is why Assemblyman Barkley and myself sponsored the bill this past session to focus on the effects versus the actual compounds that are included.
That was Nick. I apologize for messing up the buttons here. Nick, thank you for your question. Heather from Watertown has some personal experience. Would you like to share with us, Heather?
Sure. I have cerebral palsy, and I always have wanted to fit in, so I would usually fall in with the wrong crowd or somebody who was struggling with drugs, and I have seen the effects of bath salts on some of my best friends, including my son's father, whom has died because of this. And I'm wondering, other than getting the local police and, trying to pass laws, what are we doing for the short term for the people that are suffering now?
Well, I think that's what tonight's telephone town hall is about, is bringing Anita here, who has seen firsthand and can tell the listeners, first of all, the effects of it, because I think you're absolutely right. One of the problems that so many people that I've talked to, they don't understand what the possible effects are. And I will admit, when Anita was telling me earlier in the night that, weeks later, people can actually feel the effects, I think that's something that people in the community need to know about. And I certainly commend her for not only being on the phone call tonight so that people can hear and ask questions, but also offering the actual clinics that she just spoke about. So I think for the immediate future, getting the word out and making sure that everyone is aware of the ill effects of it, and to make sure for parents who are listening for what they can do to look for if a child is using it or there is something in their house is the first step. And then after that, we need to make sure that the legislation is passed in Albany that gives law enforcement the tools they need to prosecute the people who are selling it.
Heather, I also would like to add that tomorrow, Tuesday, July the 24th at 2 p.m., we will have a synthetic drugs meeting in the Marcy building, in the first floor conference room, and I cordially invite you on behalf of the entire work group to please join us, because your voice is so important to get the message out.
Carlene from Redwood, you have a suggestion, an idea that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I just wondered, has the TV and the newspapers posted pictures of how these containers look and the labels and the dangers and reactions and maybe even posters, that sort of stuff? Could that get out into the public easier or quicker or whatever?
Hi, Carlene. We being the Alcohol and Substance Abuse Council and our partners with the Synthetic Drugs Work Group, we have distributed flyers, and we also have a special on TV7 that you can link to. I will also make various flyers available on our website, www.jcasac.com, or just call us at 315-788-4660, and I will personally send them to you.
I would just like to say thank you for those who are joining us tonight, for taking time to listen to the conversation and be aware of the issue with bath salts and synthetic marijuana. I need to make sure that I thank Anita for taking the time to be with us tonight and to help educate not just the listeners but myself on the issue. Certainly appreciate the Undersheriff and the District Attorney for calling in tonight. You know, we've heard from a number of people that they weren't aware of the problem or want to know about information with regards to synthetic marijuana and bath salts. So I just want to thank everyone for calling in and staying on the line, and thank them for their great questions. And I guess we'll close by turning it over to Anita, who once again has provided her expertise tonight.
Yes, and in closing, I just would like to reiterate our phone numbers, 315-788-4660. That is the Prevention Council in Jefferson County. For the Seabay Valley Prevention Council here in Ogdensburg, if you have any questions, please call 315-713-4861. Unfortunately, I don't have the Oswego Council Prevention Council. However, they are wonderful colleagues, and they will be more than happy to assist any concerned citizen. And thank you so much for the invitation. It's been a wonderful experience being alive with the Senator and with these two gentlemen.
There's still a number of people who are on the phone. I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to get to everybody tonight, but you can, anyone who's still on this call, you can leave a message at the end of this call if you need information or if you'd just like to have your comment recorded, and we'll make sure that those messages all get to Senator Ritchie. Anita Seefried-Brown, if you want to make just one more, do you want to talk about your synthetic drug education program and just remind us about that that's coming up?
Again, we have 3 sessions coming up, 2 on Wednesday, August the 8th, 2 to 4 p.m., and then 7 to 9 p.m. The sessions have a slight slant for law enforcement personnel, first responders, firefighters, and, of course, the entire public is invited. We also have the third and final one on Wednesday, August the 15th, from 1 to 3 p.m. That one has a slant for nurses, doctors, mental health professionals, as well as the entire public. All 3 sessions will be held at the Jefferson Community College in Watertown. And we welcome everybody to come and attend, concerned citizens, school personnel, and business personnel, anybody. Please join us.
You can find all of this information on Senator Ritchie's website, www.ritchie.nysenate.gov. You can also leave a message at the end of this phone call. Senator Ritchie, thank you very much for your time this evening. Anita Seefried-Brown, thank you so much for your assistance tonight in helping us to get this word out. And thank you to all the listeners tonight.